Kid knows something's up when we ain't there to give a warm welcome. See, Zolf and I were just wrapping up a heated discussion. Zolf can barely muster the words. The calamity failed, he says, but I will not. And with that, Zolf leaves us here, alone. Zolf cursed the city, cursed the Bastion, cursed me, said he was going home. When Zolf got through reading that journal, he just snapped. Started smashing up the monument till I tried to stop him. Zolf banged up the monument pretty bad. But there's a way to put her back together. The shards. We're gonna need all of them to nurse the Bastion back to health. The city brought the shards to the wilds. Now the kid's gonna bring them back. Slinger Range is where the city's quickest pistoliers put themselves to the test. The less said about Drawson Bog, the better. That place will eat your mind. That ought to give those dueling pistols a little extra kick. You have to think fast to survive the wilds, and none thought faster than the slingers. They could shoot their pistols with the speed of a machine. They knew just when to start shooting and when to stop. Those pistols could spit out rounds just as quick as you could pull the trigger. Learning to hold your fire could be its own challenge. I gotta say, kid's the fastest shot I ever seen. He blew through Slinger Range like it was nothing. The ranch was always looking for good help. carves through all of them in a flash. Well, the kid's gone and struck terror in the hearts of squirts everywhere. The calamity saved some of my old books. Guess it's got a sense of humor. Never would have pegged the kid as the bookish type. You don't get to be my age without learning a thing or two about what's what. But the most valuable lessons come early in life. I ain't much for worldly things, though all these years I've held on to a stash of old books from when I was young. There's one old book in particular I still like to read from time to time. It covers the important things, in a manner of speaking. Here we go. A is for Kobe, the goddess of oath and abandon. Make a promise, and the chastened maid walk into it. B is for breaker. He's faster than a fork of lightning, and his aim is always true. If news needs spreading, tell it to a breaker. C is for core, a perfect bit of stone found deep underground. It makes the city shine day and night. Is there anything it can't do? D is for dread rum, a potent spirit brewed from a foul-smelling plant that grows in the wilds. One taste will sharpen your senses. E is for evacuation. In an emergency, stay calm, leave your belongings, and make your way to the nearest safe haven. Still with me? F is for foundation, a solid plot of land for building anything you can imagine. Even grand ideas start small. for Garmouth, the god of purpose and folly. The crippled Duke reminds us that good intentions are nothing on their own. Well, that's enough of that. After Zolf's little episode, Kid sets off in search of shards. First stop, Jawson Bog. You'll get lost in that bog, I told the kid, and I won't be able to guide you back. Well, I let him go. What else could I do? What could any of us do? Zolf put us in a real bind. Hurt the Bastion bad. But the shards can make it better. They're like smaller doses of the core's medicine. Shame the only place to fill that prescription is out here in the wilds. This place is intoxicating. Don't know where he's gone. Might be gone for good for all I know. Wherever he is. Somewhere I've never been. Somewhere I never want to go. The dead welcome him with open arms. Kid pops him good. That a survivor? No, ma'am. It's a lonesome ghost of a gas fella. What do you say to a kid who's seen too much? I'm Zolf of the Ura. Pleased to make your acquaintance. Now the kid sees something stranger still. Did anybody else survive? Sure enough, he finds peckers, lunkheads, wallflowers, pincushions. potions, pineapples, swamp weeds, ankle gators. There's no way out. Now the Bastion can send him even farther, into the wild unknown. Kid sets foot inside one of Ceylondia's famous watering holes. The security's just gonna have to straighten him out. He has the nerve to flash the shield he stole. He's a petty thief. Kid succeeds where the calamity failed. Would you look at what he did to poor old Rondi the bartender? Proper story's supposed to start at the beginning. It's so simple with this one. Now here's a kid whose whole world's alright, snoozing there on a rock in the sky. He wakes up. I'm just fooling. He sees what's left of the rippling walls. Years of work undone in an instant. He sees what's left of Pith the bull. He sees what's left of his lifelong friend. His friend, he's come undone too. He sees what's left undone. Near lost my train of thought just thinking about that place. The shard ain't lost either. Not anymore. Now to find a ticket out of this hole. Disgusting things. Hard to get a sure footing in the bog. Ever heard of a lung blossom? It's bigger than the stories say. Bootlickers dig their nasty thorns into his heels. The breath on that thing, like a scumbag sprung a leak. say one whiff of lung blossom can make you lose your mind. The bog might have swallowed him whole. Oh, near lost my train of thought just thinking about that place. The shard ain't lost either. Not anymore. Now to find a ticket out of this hole. Hard to get a sure footing in the bog. Ever heard of a lung blossom? It's bigger than the stories say. The breath on that thing, like a scumbag sprung a leak. They say one whiff of lung blossom can make you lose your mind. Well, a kid prunes it down to size somehow. Mother only knows what happened in the bog. Kid never much cared to speak of it. A shard is like a poor man's core, but beggars can't be choosers. That's it. A few more shards like that, and we'll be back in business. A single shard can breathe new life into this place. The shard's got enough juice to spruce up any of these places. Champagne's made with scumbag extract, hence the barley aroma and the nausea. The Bastion's a place of peace, but we can hold our own if we have to. Seen a lot of strange before, but this takes the cake. Anything survives a musket shot ought to be quick work for that blade. Some things just ain't meant for this world, but who are we to judge? We talk a little here and there. Go on, open it, she says. The worst that can happen already did, right?
Unexpected coordinates. Unmeasured data overflow. I see a phone. Is this it?
Don't get her too excited now. No telling what she'll do.
Hello, child. I want to go home. Location unknown. Why am I here? Am I a dream? Unexpected coordinates.
A shard is like a poor man's core, but beggars can't be choosers. That's it. Few more shards like that, and we'll be back in business. A single shard can breathe new life into this place. The shard's got enough juice to spruce up any of these places. Finders keepers. Makes time to sample spirits from my personal supply. The Bastion's a place of peace, but we can hold our own if we have to. Seen a lot of strange before, but this takes the cake. Some things just ain't meant for this world, but who are we to judge? Go on, open it, she says. The worst that can happen already did, right?
Sentry mode activated.
Champagne's made with scumbag extract, hence the barley aroma. And the nausea. Oh, those books ain't as bad as they look. This ain't about me, though you might as well know where I'm coming from. Kid takes another drag, goes out like a light. There's something you should know about the kid, but let me take it from the top.
Why am I here? Hello. I want to go home.
catches up with the kid. Hardly had a moment's rest since all this started. Fair to say he's led a hard life, supposing what he says in his sleep ain't no lie. He never knew his old man, but he had his mama to take care of. Frail thing with pure white hair like his. Having his mama's hair did the kid no favors while he was growing up, but he learned to hold his own out there. School ain't working out, so the kid signs up for a turn on the rippling walls. Make his mama some money. Thanks to folks like the kid, the walls kept Ceylondia safe from whatever's out there. The elements, the Ura, you name it. Once the kid done his time, he hurried on home. Turns out his mama's time was done too. The city had nothing for him. The money he'd been sending home was nowhere to be found either. So what'd the kid do? Why, he went right on back to the walls for another 5 years. In the history of Ceylondia, nobody's ever volunteered for a second shift on the walls. Out there, kid learned to fend for himself, learn to build, learn to break. In time, the kid earned good standing with the marshals. They trusted him to scout out farther than anybody. One night, on one of his expeditions, the ground beneath him shuddered, cracked, and split apart. He saw nothing where the world used to be. The calamity happened just like that. All the kid had to work with was his hammer and the clothes on his back. Through twisted streets, he ran with nothing but the city crest and an old stranger's voice to guide him. Well, he finally arrived at Caelondia's vaunted safe haven. He and no one else. But then, all he got was more thankless work from a man who ain't even asked his name. Sure, I may be the one who dreamt up the walls and the Bastion, but the kid made them real, not me. I'd like to say I'll never forget him, or what he's doing, what he's done. I surely would. Required reading, I guess.
Searching. Location unknown.
Ain't good manners to talk about oneself. Not that we need manners anymore. I ain't much for worldly things, though all these years I've held on to a stash of old books from when I was young. There's one old book in particular I still like to read from time to time. It covers the important things, in a manner of speaking. Here we go. A is for Kobe, the goddess of oath and abandon. Make a promise, and the chastened maid will hold you to it. B is for Breaker. He's faster than a fork of lightning, and his aim is always true. If news needs spreading, tell it to a breaker. C is for core, a perfect bit of stone found deep underground. It makes the city shine day and night. Is there anything it can't do? D is for Dread Rum, a potent spirit brewed from a foul-smelling plant that grows in the wilds. One taste will sharpen your senses. E is for evacuation. In an emergency, stay calm, leave your belongings, and make your way to the nearest safe haven. F is for foundation, a solid plot of land for building anything you can imagine. Even grand ideas start small. G is for Garmuth, the god of purpose and folly. The crippled Duke reminds us that good intentions are nothing on their own. H is for Hensa, goddess of pain and pleasure. You can't have one without the other. The veiled widow makes sure of it. I is for In Case of Trouble, a song grown famous across the land, dedicated to the pioneering spirit of Caelondia. J is for Javel, the god of health and atrophy. We each have the Tower Keeper's strength in us, until that strength runs out. still with me? K is for kid. A guy or gal just like you. Don't be in such a hurry to grow up, since there's nothing a kid can't do. L is for Lemaine, the god of hope and despair. The Mason King knows that success and failure are all in the mind. Well, that's enough of that. Any brusher's pike can cut to the bone, but that one can cut through it. That thing wasn't always meant to be a weapon, but there's no denying it now. Wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of those. Leechade's so sour it'll perk you right up when you're feeling low. The city tried to use the shards to stake out the wilds. So much for that plan. Rothless Lagoon, even the brushers stopped going there. Didn't like being eaten. Ankle gators used to roam the wilds, and they nested at Rothless Lagoon. Many a tale folks used to scare their children straight originated here. All kinds of beasts were going up and down, still looking about. Only the city's brushers knew their way around the lagoon. Even the brushers learned to fear this place. They used to think that ankle gators were extinct. Well, they ain't. One of them's been living in the tall grass. They called her Queen Anne. The lagoon's got plenty of other dangers, of course. Turns out Queen Anne got a hold of a shard. Ankle gators love shiny things. Know what smells worse than an ankle gator's breath? The stinkweed. Ain't time for pecker hunting, but the kid can't resist. Can't fight Queen Anne without the proper tools. The brushers use their pikes to keep their distance around here. Now the kid can do the same. They say you can't hurt an ankle gator unless it's raining. And it ain't raining. Can't get hasty in a place like this. Sharp sticks make Queen Anne nervous, so she backs off a bit. Those pin cushions been living off the ankle gator scraps. Queen Anne can't fit down some of these narrow paths. Queenie leads the kid into some kind of twisted trap. One bad step in that tall grass and he's Queen Anne's lunch. He holds his ground. Seems the Queen's running out of options. Fast as he can. The closer you get to an ankle gator's lair, the thicker the tall grass grows. Kid's gotta make a run for it. Those leaping lunkheads don't like Queen Anne any better than the kid. They make a tasty snack. Queenie must have scared a bunch of peckers out of hiding. Seems even stinkweeds know to stay away from the Queen. Ankle gators don't much care for their young. That's why there ain't many around. Wanna know how to find an ankle gator lair? You use a kid as bait. The shard's sitting in plain view. Now she's coming for him. She's got nowhere else to go. They say if you run across an ankle gator, you better keep running. She's starting to get annoyed. And now he's made her mad. Rest in peace, Queen Anne. That was for the brushers. Kid's done what needed to be done. Queen Anne's reign is over. We even got a crown jewel. All that trouble for a single shard. But you know what? It was worth it. That gator's a crazy gal, but so is the gal who promised to look after her. He ain't all that shy. They said Queen Anne was just a folktale. Now there's living proof she ain't. Just the occasion to crack open the distillery's private reserve. Live wine so rich, they say it's brought men back from the brink for one last taste. That'll spice things up next time he gets in trouble. The next shard should be farther out there in the wilds. Point Lemaine's Grand Rail once brought the riches of the wild right to our doorstep. Over there's Camp Dauncey, where the brushers steeled themselves for secret missions. To prepare for the wilds, Ceylonia's brushers practice at Camp Dauncey. Had to navigate a maze of pincushions with nothing but a pike. Sometimes the course was brutal. It's a dangerous test for a dangerous job. Elf tonics were off limits at Camp Dauncey. They said they made you weak. rules said he couldn't use any fancy footwork, just your brains and your pike. The good enough run at Camp Danzig could get you promoted to captain on the spot. The wilds ain't so scary now, are they? Bull brandy is thicker than paint. Makes your skin feel as tough as knife bark. The dynasty, to the families of the city, all reunited. Taught him a little something from my days on the front. Looks like our little science project is all set. Want to keep the wilds at bay? Pack yourself a musket and a pike. Know how Caelondia became the richest city in the world? 2 words. Point Lemaine. If the wilds could ever be tamed, it was gonna happen right here. The Army's triggers once had the place on lockdown. Kid might as well pick up where they left off. Point Lemaine seen better days for sure, but it ain't done. Whole place shudders in a fit. The grand rail of Point Lemaine, not only is it still there, it still works. Of course, it's no longer shipping hides and alloys and spices, but it can give the kid a lift. Just as long as he can stay clear of the trouble on the tracks. grand rail's all grown over with things that Calamity chewed up and spat out. Things eager to take back their turf. Kid lets a few of them slip by. Takes fancy footwork on the rail, what with wallflowers coughing fungus everywhere. Only one way to cure a cough like that. Lunkheads settled in like they owned the place. Place used to be closed off, but now it's split open like a rotten pineapple. Of course, the Grand Rails seem much more fighting in bygone times. The Ura-Ceylonian War, 50 years ago, doomed to happen again. It was right here that Zulf's Ura forefathers decided to mix it up. Okay, so maybe we didn't get their sign-off on the whole Grand Rail thing. That was bad. The rail must have shook the Ura to the bone down in those dens of theirs. Well, the rail won't last much longer now that the kid took the shard. It's still got one good run in store for him, though. All the rotten wood there on the rails turned it into Swamp Weed Central. Ever tried dancing side to side while holding your breath? While shooting a genuine registered army carbine? While choking on swamp weed? While peckers trying to prick you in the eye? Well, let me tell you, it ain't fun. But then, at last, it's the end of the line. He'll be picking swamp weed out of those boots for days. Turns out he's got company up at the rail station, waiting for him. Not just another wallflower or pincushion, mind you. At first, he thinks it's Zulf. Turns out he's wrong. This is for you, says the man. Then wham! When the kid comes to, the man's long gone, but something else is there. Well, what's a kid to do? He took the shard, he took the hit, and he took that note. That note cuts straight to the heart of things, don't it? Finding gourmet ingredients ain't easy these days, but we'll take what we can get. The note says it plain. Zia, go east to learn the truth about the calamity and our people. I'll be waiting. Sincerely, Zulf. It ain't too late to unlock the potential of this place. Zulf's messenger was one of his people. Wonder just how many of them survived, and what exactly Zulf told him. Ain't saying much, but that's the greatest forge in all the city. The Armada sure could have used one of these back in the day. The culture, a still life of old unwanted keepsakes. The triggers, my brothers, bravest men I ever knew. A pinch of fairy dust, and it's all set. The shards are getting harder to find. No risk of Culford Cauldron ever erupting again, they used to say. Guess they were wrong. That's Trigger Hill, where the Army's elite became the finest marksmen in the land. Caelandia's army only took the best, and the best of them trained on Trigger Hill. The Triggers believed they were nothing without their rifles. Nothing beats the feel of shooting a Caelandian army carbine. Sometimes you had to take care to steady your shot. The Triggers had clearance to modify their guns however they chose. Some felt the course was too easy, so the Triggers spiced things up a bit. Kid blows through that course like it was nothing. The Caelandian army would have recruited him in a flash. Sometimes a brusher's pike just ain't enough. That's what the carbine's for. Not everything blew up in the calamity. Why, Culford Cauldron here blew up way ahead of its time. The cauldron boiled over some 300 years ago. They say it filled the skies with ash and the lakes with molten rock. If you wanted to survive something like that, you had to learn to adapt. So in a way, the beasts of the wilds, they're all survivors too. Best to keep out of the cauldron. It takes a certain stubborn pride to keep on living in a place like this. As for us, we learned an awful lot from Culford Cauldron. That learning led to some interesting inventions. The raw power of the world fell right into our hands. Can't fault our people for their natural curiosity now, can you? Sure, we dusted off a good many secrets out here.
Unexpected coincidence.
But we discovered other things we're better off not knowing. The unforgiving scent of sulfurous dirt. Taste of air so hot it sticks to your lungs. All sorts of awful things crawling underfoot. You can cook those things, but you can't eat them. Never thought we'd find so much life in all that ash. We kept on sifting through the cauldron's secrets anyway. more ash we swept aside, the more life we found. Place as inhospitable as they come. But still we pressed on. After all, when we looked down inside Colford Cauldron, looked down through all the smoke and flames, we saw in there the heart of the world, the heart now laid bare by the calamity. We had to have it. As for the kid, he just has to get that shard out of there. Too bad taking that thing woke up every last stink eye from here to Johnson Bog. Luckily, the cauldron cooked up a little shortcut for him. Sure, it ain't the most convenient path. Biggest stink eye he's ever seen's waiting for him on the other side. Well, it ain't polite to stare. But where there's one stink eye, there's always more. The cauldron's tenants all gather up to bid the kid a fond farewell. Kid don't shed any tears for him though. With a good spyglass, you can still see the cauldron from the city. But all the fires died out. There's nothing left of it. It comes back looking like the inside of a chimney. The shard works like a charm. You can hear the monument's heartbeat again. Seems the gods recommended this place to all their friends. They said the wild could never be tamed. If only they could see us now. We're all a little short on friends these days, so that's a welcome sight. Black rye is like hot pineapple chowder on a cold day. Brings back memories. It wasn't fixed, it was unbroken. And that's everything. Mother knows he's paid his dues in that forge. Turns out those old bones still have some spark in them. A repeater goes with a hammer better than a box of nails. We spotted a pecker carrying a shard to Mount Zan. Grady Incinerator's where we sent off all our trash to be burned or be eaten by the wilds. Not much left of Mount Zan nowadays. It's like a cross between a zoo and a prison break. Welcome to Grady Incinerator, home of the hottest wings east of Caelandia. In all seriousness, the incinerator was a dump, and it had a problem with peckers. Blasted things would swoop in and spread trash all around, until we started using fire. We couldn't just torch them all at once. We had to use restraint. Wasn't any other way to teach those peckers some respect. Who knows why we fought so hard to defend our own trash? can't rightly call Mount Zand a mountain anymore. There's no more mountains now. There's no place left for the beasts of the wild to go. Good thing for those beasts the Calamity saved leftovers. We only found their little lair because they found themselves a little shard. The creatures of the wild, they've been building a bastion of their own. Best thing we can do for those beasts right now is put them down quick and clean. There's only one kind of mercy left these days. What the city left behind, those beasts took for themselves. Takes a lot of convincing, and our mortars have to do the talking. Look at it this way, it's either them or us. But if we win, they win too. Our bastion is everybody's game, not just ours. Unfortunately, there's no explaining that to a simple beast. Those beasts been hard at work fixing up the place. They've rounded up their survivors, just like we have. It's a delicate situation. They've been searching for cores and shards, just like we have. The beasts of Mount Zand go all out. Maybe they've thought about turning back, just like we have. We just really need their shard. Kid got it fair and square.
Will you come over?
That's the way.
Every child. Target acquired. Protecting child. Hostile test subject. I see you.
He's done what's best for him, don't you worry.
With you.
Don't you worry. We'll all be better off once the Bastion is complete. Fixed that thing right up, didn't we? Made these goings-on a little livelier. Suppose it's true a little song can put things in perspective. The monument's getting better. Zolf sure did a number on it, though. The memorial may be finished, but our part is far from over. He's a spitting image of Slinger Jawson with that pike and them pistols. He's made a right comfortable bed for all those bullets. You'd never guess those things been to the wilds and back. Fallen malt is filled with crunchy minerals that'll keep you safe out on them rocks. Just a couple shards left. The quarry's gotta have one, right? The secret to how we built Caelondia so tall and proud lies in Burstone Quarry. Boundless Bay used to be a weapons test and dry dock. Ain't never been this dry, though. Caelondia's armada was a glorious sight, and our ship's mortars were unstoppable. At Boundless Bay, our Navy put those mortars through a rigorous inspection. Had to use squirts to simulate explosive impact on the surface of the sea. Choosing targets with those mortars was one of the trickiest parts. You could almost see the fireworks over Boundless Bay. Good thing we got to that mortar before the beasts of the wild learned how to use it. Imagine everything you'd need to build a city like Caelondia. It takes hard work and planning, and it also takes a Burstone Quarry. The Ura tunnels beneath the quarry must have softened the blow from the calamity. Same goes for its natives, rattletails. why would the Ura put up with those pests? Rattletails ain't the worst of it either, but more about that in a little bit. The quarry came with a lifetime supply of windbags. Windbags smaller than the naked eye can see are nesting in those rocks. Not only are these rocks a source of life, we found that the oldest ones remember things. They're recording everything, all the time, taking it all in. No wonder all those beasts were drawn to the quarry. The rocks were calling them. Hard times in the quarry these days. Keeping the quarry free from pests turned out to be a problem. Rattletails kept tunneling in to snack on windbags. Now why would the Ura sell off such a fascinating place? Might be the gods told them the quarry's bad news. Even Stink Eyes started taking root in here. Without those windbags, the quarry might not have its special qualities. The Ura always were a superstitious lot. Just takes three things to build the greatest city in the world. It takes hard work and planning, and it also takes Burstone Quarry. The Ura tunnels beneath the quarry must have softened the blow of the calamity. Same goes for its natives, Rattletails. The quarry came with a lifetime supply of windbags, but there was even more to it than that. Not only are these rocks a source of life, we found that the oldest ones remember things. They're recording everything, all the time, taking it all in. No wonder all those beasts were drawn to the quarry. The rocks were calling them. quarry free from pests turned out to be a problem. Rattletails kept tunneling in to snack on windbags. Without those windbags, the quarry might not have its special qualities. Even stink eyes started taking root in here. Now, why would the Ura sell off such a fascinating place? Might be the gods told him the quarry's bad news. The Ura always were a superstitious lot. On top of that, you know the Ura hated anything above ground. Might be the quarry just got too much sunshine for their liking. In any case, it's fair to say the quarry was a godsend. Those rocks, all polished to a mirror sheen. The largest ones, you know as cores. Single core could keep the lights on in an entire city district. The smaller ones, we call them shards. The shards got a fraction of a core's power, enough to fuel a voyage to the motherland.
Protecting charm.
Well, now the quarry's all dried up. These rocks are much too young to be of use. Remember how I said Rattletails ain't the worst thing in the quarry? That honor goes to a beast we took to calling Sir Lunky. Massive things stomped many of our boys. We just couldn't get rid of him. The only thing harder than the rocks in Bastion Quarry is Sir Lunky's head. We never could get stubborn old Lunky to leave the quarry alone. Then the kid hears a voice calling from down the hall. "Are you all right?" it says. It's him. "I've come to warn you," he says. The Bastion is under siege. Let it fall. You should not go back. Kid hears him, but he ain't about to be deterred. "If that's the way it is," he says, "then I won't stop you. Because my countrymen will." The next part's hard to talk about, no matter how many times I try. Say what you will about Zulf, but he's a man of his word. His countrymen don't much care for pleasantries, though. Zulf showed him the way here, and here they came to take revenge. They got inside the Bastion and shut the door. Kid's gotta go in through the back. Should have seen this coming. Felt it in my bones. Unfortunately, they broke in, and they started digging their hole. Something wrong sprung out of those holes, and it's eating away in this place. We tried to stop them, but we needed help. Our baby pecker, he don't make it. Somehow, some way, he sends those Ura packing. Problem is, it didn't matter. Zulf's plan worked. We find each other as the dust settles. Then I tell him why the Ura came. To get us back. For the Calamity. It was Ceylandia's master plan to wipe the Ura out. But part of that plan backfired, didn't it? If only Zulf knew the whole story, what were we to think? They must have got her, taken her back to her rightful home. The shards can put this disease in remission. But there's only one cure. We need to finish what we started. The arsenal's complete, in case we need protection. The slingers, the wilds where they're calling, the sanctuary. If we can build, we can rebuild. If you're feeling low, count on the buttery flavor of our own Bastion bourbon. We talk a little here and there. Seems Zia's cooking got the best of him. The Hura swooped down from the east. At least now we know the way. Urzendra Gate used to lead down to the terminals. Now it leads up to the stars. Court is back in session for the kid. Old ritual from when folks believed there was this godlike bull watching over him. Had to make do with nothing but a shield. Some folks wound up taking the coward's way out. The menders, they had thankless jobs, the most important kind. Third time's a charm, right? Wrong. Ever tell you how the kid got himself wrapped up in this mess to begin with? Think the gods are gonna help. All right, no more asking about that smoking pipe. Deal? The past. Only good thing ever come out of the past is history. The past catches up with a kid. Hardly had a moment's rest since all this started. Fair to say he's led a hard life. Supposing what he says in his sleep ain't no lie. He never knew his old man, but he had his mama to take care of. For a thing with pure white hair like his. Having his mama's hair did the kid no favors while he was growing up, but he learned to hold his own out there. School ain't working out, so the kid signs up for a turn on the rippling walls. Make his mama some money. Thanks to folks like the kid, the walls kept Ceylondia safe from whatever's out there. The elements, the Ura, you name it. Once the kid done his time, he hurried on home. Turns out his mama's time was done too. The city had nothing for him. The money he'd been sending home was nowhere to be found either. So what'd the kid do? Why, he went right on back to the walls for another 5 years. In the history of Ceylondia, nobody's ever volunteered for a second shift on the walls. Out there, kid learned to fend for himself, learn to build, learn to break. In time, the kid earned good standing with the marshals. They trusted him to scout out farther than anybody. One night, on one of his expeditions, the ground beneath him shuddered, cracked, and split apart. He saw nothing where the world used to be. The calamity happened just like that.
Location unknown.
All the kid had to work with was his hammer and the clothes on his back. Through twisted streets, he ran with nothing but the city crest and an old stranger's voice to guide him.
They'll teach me. Could you come in, reindeer?
Will he finally arrived at Caelandia's vaunted safe haven? He and no one else. But then, all he got was more thankless work from a man who ain't even asked his name.
Protecting child.
Sure, I may be the one who dreamt up the walls and the Bastion, but the kid made him real, not me. I'd like to say I'll never forget him, or what he's doing, what he's done. I surely would. The marshals kept the city's peace. They can rest easy now. Never thought I'd see that thing completed. Not in this life. Read and learn, I like to say. You don't get to be my age without learning a thing or two about what's what. But the most valuable lessons come early in life. I ain't much for worldly things, though all these years I've held on to a stash of old books from when I was young. There's one old book in particular I still like to read from time to time. It covers the important things, in a manner of speaking. Here we go. A is for Kobe, the goddess of oath and abandon. Make a promise, and the chastened maid will hold you to it. B is for Breaker. He's faster than a fork of lightning, and his aim is always true. If news needs spreading, tell it to a breaker. C is for Core, a perfect bit of stone found deep underground. It makes the city shine day and night. Is there anything it can't do? D is for Dreadrum, a potent spirit brewed from a foul-smelling plant that grows in the wilds. One taste will sharpen your senses. E is for evacuation. In an emergency, stay calm, leave your belongings, and make your way to the nearest safe haven. F is for foundation, a solid plot of land for building anything you can imagine. Even grand ideas start small. G is for Garmuth, the god of purpose and folly. The crippled Duke reminds us that good intentions are nothing on their own. Still with me? H is for Hensa, goddess of pain and pleasure. You can't have one without the other. The veiled widow makes sure of it. I is for In Case of Trouble, a song grown famous across the land, dedicated to the pioneering spirit of Caelondia. J is for Javel, the god of health and atrophy. We each have the Tower Keeper's strength in us, until that strength runs out. K is for kid, a guy or gal just like you. Don't be in such a hurry to grow up, since there's nothing a kid can't do. L is for Lemaine, the god of hope and despair. The Mason King knows that success and failure are all in the mind. M is for Messiah, our goddess of loss and longing. We all are born from the Lorn Mother, and in the end, we all return to her. And as for Nordy, the bird boy, who's always there to bring a smile at the Hanging Gardens, thanks to his feathered friends. O is for Alec, our young god of chance and whim. The carefree son lives forever in the moment. The rest of us can only try. P is for Pith, the god of commotion and order. When the wakeful bull is calm, let's all do our part to keep him that way. Q is for Queen Anne, the notorious ankle gator from the wilds. She can even dig her way into rotten children's dreams. Well, that's enough of that. Kid's taking every precaution before setting off in search of you-know-who. He wolfs down too much too fast, and it all goes to his head. I've said a lot about the kid, but he ain't the only one wrapped up in all this. What's he thinking? Well, let me see if I got this straight. I only heard it once. Once there was a normal Ura girl, but she wasn't born in the Tassel terminals like the rest of her people. She was from Ceylania. Her folks were orphaned in the war, taken in and raised inside the city, on condition they would never return to the terminals. Ura refugees who came into the city had to stay for life. It was a way to reduce the risk of city secrets leaking out. The mama passed away from birthing complications, leaving the girl trapped inside that city with no one but her father. Her father was sharper than a brusher's pike, so he got a job working for these Mancers. His daughter barely saw him. Her father told her nothing of her Ura heritage. He told her nothing of the Mansers. It's for your own good, he said. She took to studying the arts, learned more through music than history books, gained a knack for strings and songs. Now, where were we? At first, she tried to be like other girls, but her classmates spread word that her father was an Ura trader, selling out the city. One young man stood up for her, or so he led her to believe. He knew much of her heritage, and she grew fond of him. The young man convinced her to take him to her family den to meet her father. Spoke of how he wanted to meet a man from the terminals. When the young man greeted her father in the Ura's native language, her father flew into a fit of rage and threw them out. The young man never told her that the Ura's native language is not to be used by foreigners. To do so is a terrible insult. Well, I digress. One last shard. It's all we need to put this mess behind us. And mother, what a mess it is. A mess like that could have only been made by hand. Zolf said the calamity failed, and he's right. The Uras stand as living proof of that. At the heart of the calamity was a simple idea. We never wanted to go to war again. Wanted to rule it out. We put a lot of folks against that problem. Scientists, soldiers, spies, even me. We traveled near as far as the kid's going right now. Most of our efforts didn't bear fruit. Then there was a breakthrough, but it didn't come from one of our people. It came from an Ura, a brilliant young scientist named Ven. Ven worked for the Mancers, the sharpest knives in the city's drawer. With his help, the Mancers devised a way to seal the Ura tunnels shut in a flash. Just like that, every last Ura living in the Tassel terminals will be gone. This discovery was never to be used, they said, except as a last resort. You can't turn back now. But Ven didn't like being manipulated. He had plans of his own. He sabotaged the Mancer's little science project, set it to blow up in their faces. Imagine how Ven must have felt when they finally made him pull that trigger. But remember, the Bastion can fix everything. We just need that shard. Too bad the Ura ain't exactly been willing to collaborate on that front. It's strange. Feels like I told this part 1,000 times. First things first, though. There's someone we figured needed rescuing. Zia. The Ura fell back, no doubt planning the next move, but we knew ours already. Keep your chin up, kid, I tell him. There's something we had to do before going after that last shard. Zoltan's Hollow is the Ura's border blockade. At least it used to be. Well, now it's personal, ain't it? It's personal for him, and it's personal for me. gets his hands on the care package I sent him. They got their own security and everything. Pretty fancy, even. Still, they ain't used to having visitors around. They've got these conductors that are all what's keeping the place together. Break enough of those things and the Calamity Rocks slip back into the ground.
Unexpected cravings.
Those rocks are like tumors, the same kind the Ura planted in the Bastion. Well, the Ura must be in a panic right about now. They even sick their little rattletail pets on the kid. Those rodents are just a bump in the road. Kids picking the whole place apart, piece by piece. By now, every Ura from here to the terminals must know he's in town. Most of the Ura's conductors are squared away in the middle of the hollow. They're easy targets. The Ura ain't pulling their punches. Those calamity rocks must be eating that place apart from the inside. The Ura keep hanging on to that barricade. After all, their homeland's not much farther. Maybe they know they've lost this. Lost to a kid. They underestimated us. Had us pegged all wrong. Some of them are downright bewildered by what's happening. Yes, our people caused the calamity, but here we are trying to fix it. Shame the opportunity for civilized discourse is over. Suppose old Zolf should have got to know us better. Zulf, the Ura, they have every reason to be angry. Beyond angry. But when this is all over, it'll all be water under the bridge. As the hour grows desperate, the Ura bring out their big guns. Too bad for them, our guns are bigger still. There's nothing standing in his way no more. He sees the Tazzle terminals loom large on the horizon. Way out there on the edge of the world, that's where he finally finds you. But it ain't like Prosper Bluff this time. Ain't nothing for this gal to sing about now. Zia, you weren't kidnapped. No, ma'am. You just had to see what happened to the Ura. To your own people. You had to see if everything Zulf wrote to you was true. Sure you didn't drop that twangy thing on purpose? Just to see if he'd go after you? They lost everything, didn't they? But they just keep on fighting like that's gonna bring it all back.